Hi, my name's Charlie with Modern Exterior, and today we're talking about brown water staining on your ceiling and how to determine if that water staining is new or old and who to call about it or what to do about it. Whether you're a new homeowner or you've lived in your home for a long time, finding a brown stain on your ceiling can be pretty concerning. It'll make you wonder if this is an old issue that's already been addressed or if this is a newer issue that you need to take care of. So here are some things to consider when addressing a brown stain. So when you first notice a brown stain, a lot of people think, or their first thought is to cover it up with paint right away, but you should hold off on doing that. Zach Reese from Colony Roofers said, "You shouldn't try and cover the brown stain by painting over it, as you aren't solving the root of the problem. Untreated leaks can lead to electrical and structural damage, which can be expensive and dangerous." So first of all, why is the staining brown? Well, for a number of reasons. Water can carry dirt and dust and other particles, roofing materials, insulation, other parts of the building structure. As water seeps through and dries up, it leaves behind these particles, resulting in a brown stain. If water's coming in contact with metal pipes, nails, or other metallic components, it will cause rust as well, contributing to the brown discoloration. Even in the woods, there's some tannins, so if the water's leaking through some of the trusses in the attic, that can cause the brown staining as well, and any other organic matter that it might pick up. So some things to consider to determine if this is an old stain or a new stain can be the color of the stain. A newer stain is typically darker and is damp to the touch. They can be brown or yellow or kind of coppery looking. An older stain is usually dry and will likely have a brittle texture. Newer stains are less likely to have mold or mildew growth. If you are seeing signs of mold, mildew, or if it has kind of a musty smell to it, that's a sign of an older leak because it has been more prolonged exposure to the moisture. Some other indications that this is a new stain: the surrounding ceiling will usually be in good condition with no flaking or peeling paint. An older stain, you'll find peeling, flaking, and bubbling. That's indicating prolonged exposure to moisture. New stains are usually more contained, and older stains are with longer exposure to moisture are going to be further spread out. One thing you could always do is take a pencil and mark the leak point and then determine or watch it, and that will help you determine over time if that leak is spreading, and that may help you indicate if this leak has been fixed or not. Usually when you see a brown stain, your mind automatically goes to that's probably coming from a roof leak, and oftentimes those brown stains are coming from a roof leak. So how do we determine that it's coming from the roof? Well, you'll want to get in the attic. If there's an accessible attic space directly above the leak, you'll want to get in there and look for the spot directly above the leak. Sometimes you may need to use a tape measure and kind of measure where it's from in relation to your attic access hatch. That could help you get to the right spot if it's sort of hard to determine. Then you'll want to get over that spot and you'll want to look at the insulation. And you're looking for compressed insulation or wet, damp insulation. You're also looking for maybe water staining on the trusses above. If you can find the water stains and they're damp to the touch, if the insulation is damp to the touch, that's a pretty good indication that this is an existing leak that's happening now. Usually if a leak's happening for a long time, you'll see the water start to bore a hole in the insulation. So sometimes it can be quite obvious if all the insulation around it is lying flat and then you see a kind of a bored hole in that insulation directly above your leak. That's a key indication that it's sure enough it's coming from the roof. You'll want to look for penetrations in the roof, such as plumbing pipes, vents, bathroom vents, kitchen vents. It could be a chimney nearby or even a wall intersecting with that roof slope where there's maybe some step flashing. But not all ceilings have an accessible attic space directly above. So it's always advisable to call a reputable roofer and have them come take a look for you. Another very common source of a brown stain in a ceiling can be from condensation. When hot air mixes with cold air, it can cause condensation. So there's a few things that can cause that in your home. One thing would be inadequate insulation. If you don't have a good insulate barrier between your heated space in your home and the cold attic space, all that heat is going to escape your home and mix in the cold parts of the year with the cold air in the attic, and that will cause condensation. It can cause freezing, and when that freezing thaws, you'll see that form in your ceiling. The other thing is having proper ventilation in your attic. You'll always want a consistent airflow coming from an intake. More often than not, the intake is coming from a soffit air vent, and a lot of times we find those vents clogged by insulation. The air is drawn up from the vents, the air intake vents, and then it cycles through the roof, or the attic space rather, and then it exits through typically a box vent or a ridge vent. So having that constant upwards air pressure cycle through your roof, allowing your attic to stay dry and preventing condensation is very important. It's very common to have insulation block those air intake, soffit air intakes. So that's one thing you'll want to look for. And again, having a roofer come out, or maybe a insulation expert come out to take a look for these things, would be advisable. There are some other things that can cause condensation, such as having inadequate insulation around your air ducts. So for example, your bathroom vents, a lot of moisture comes off of those air ducts, and if it's just a single walled air duct, it can be pretty flimsy, and you'll still have a lot of moisture come out of that. So you want to have that air duct wrapped in a double walled insulated duct to prevent any kind of condensation, and you want to make sure that that air duct is properly connected to an external vent. Sometimes, or a lot of times, you'll see a bathroom vent exhausting right directly into the attic, not connected to an external vent cap. So again, that's a great thing for having a reputable roofer come out, because they can, if you don't have an external vent cap for that bathroom vent, you can have a roofer cut that in and attach properly. If there's any kind of seals in those ducts, water can seep out of them. And then, lastly, plumbing pipes that can leak, or potential HVAC systems above, can cause this condensation as well. So if you find a plumbing pipe directly above, if you find some HVAC ductwork directly above, then you'll want to call an HVAC technician, or you'll want to call a reputable plumber to have them come take a look at those systems. But when in doubt, you can always score out and cut a hole where that staining is, and that's a way to see directly what's going on above you. But that's kind of a last resort method to really try to determine where this leak's coming from. So hopefully these pointers will help you address the next action steps in addressing those ugly brown stains. As a homeowner, it's important to address these stains because it can lead to water damage and very expensive repairs down the road. Again, I'm Charlie with Modern Exterior, and thanks for taking the time watching us today.